Hi. Let's get some peace and some feelings of well-being flowing more. Yeah? So, inhaling through the nostrils and exhaling. Let's do another one. Yeah. How you doing? So what might shift for you if you were to give yourself some spaciousness to just sit here and do that? Maybe with your eyes closed in a meditation practice, or maybe just out in nature. Maybe right where you are watching this right now. Let's do another one. In the yogic culture, it's understood that the divine is connected with that breath. And all the work I do is focused on helping our systems open up to allow more of that oxygenation via the life force energy. Sense of them being intertwined. And I know that it's been happening for a while. So here's an example of the it. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a one-on-one session with one of my clients who is very in tune. She lives over in Asia. And I had just started the clearing part when I was done with saying all that was clearing and allowing the energy to flow. While I was listening intuitively too to anything else that was getting cleared, that was brought to my consciousness intuitively. Many of you who have received any work from me have heard what I have called the singing frogs of good fortune, or the singing toads of good fortune. So these toads, as soon as that energy started to sing, and she said, "Ooh, everything's happy." Yesterday when I was having another session with her, and I started to flow energy towards something that she had requested I flow energy towards, as soon as the connection was made and the energy was being sent, birds started chirping. And I know that in Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, my much beloved signature program that you hear me talk about a lot in, I believe it's week 3's module, I take people outside, as I did boys in my after school club, to help who were getting labeled with ADD and ADHD to connect, to see our field's connection with the greater field, or the Tao. And so I know that when I go out and do some of my morning commands with energy daily, the trees start to move with me. Not with me, it's not like I'm standing there moving, but there's a response, and it's not because there's a higher up breeze or wind coming in from the left or the right. It's just the leaves closest to me. And I've heard from a lot of you throughout this time of slow down a bit more due to COVID. You've been taking more time in your gardens, or you've been taking more time outside, and you've been able to be stiller. And it's in those moments of spaciousness when we're not planning or strategizing or analyzing or separating out with our mind to analyze and to reason out, but we're in the expansive state of just allowing life to be, especially with a raised vibration and a more purified consciousness. It's reaching out to us all the time, and even when we're in like frustration but we can't perceive it, it's still there. And more, it feels like, I don't know about now than ever before, but it really feels like, at least since I've been in a physical body, in these most incredible times we're in right now, in the midst of the turning point, as the old paradigm has crumbled, and we're on the pathway to the new paradigm, and it's yet to become physicalized much more. It's all still in consciousness for the most part. I know that the spaciousness is the way to access more of that spirit that wants to get brought in and interwoven within our creations that we physicalize from an inspired action step. Some people use the bathtub, some people use the shower, some people use bike rides or hikes or runs, but even that motioning, it's a different pacing for that expansiveness of the matrix of what happens in consciousness and what the heart chakra can do when the divine is reaching out to us. So the greater field of unlimited possibilities, as I say in Reasonable Dragons, my third book in the subtitle even, or what I call the Tao, and we call that in Qigong, and we learn to work with in Qigong. It's there, and it wants in. And I know we're so entrained, particularly in America, for the action in the doing, and I am by no means saying no action. Our actions become so much more potent, one action, when we approach it with having the integration of the spaciousness as well, because it's able to be more concentrated, like a concentration of lemon juice rather than watered down lemon juice, pure from the lemon juice, rather than with water added. Our actions, one step, is able to be much more effective when we've had the balance of the yin, of that spaciousness, and it's spirit infused, or there's more consciousness present as we take that action step. It's no longer the same paradigm, it's no longer the same time, and so therefore new tools are required, and particularly for Americans in the West, yes, but particularly for Americans coming out of that conditioning, that the physical, that which I can point to and prove is real because I can see it and point to it, is taking its proper seat right next to and equal to that which we can't see, which that's a woodpecker, which in my decade in living in Asia, I was completely left with the impression of that hemisphere, all my travels throughout it, but steeped in the traditional Chinese teachings, the Taoist teachings, as well as the yogic teachings. Qi, where Qi goes, energy, consciousness, blood follows. That traditional Chinese medical tenet is an example of the understanding of the power in consciousness. So I just did a podcast interview yesterday where the podcast host was very vulnerable in talking about how she sees her absolute steeping in the favoring of action as the path to how we achieve. And action is now again taking its proper seat. Again, I'm balanced. You see the equality there. Over half the rest of the world understands that the power, more power is in the invisible, and that what becomes visible in the physical is from the invisible. How energy moves based on our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and all that back of the house consciousness many of you hear me talk about, and then I'm always clearing and then activating. So what would it look like in your life tomorrow if you started bringing that recognition and valuing in of the invisible, of consciousness / energy, of the power of the heart and of the spirit and spirit infused matter? So for example, when you buy a beautiful piece of craft from a person on eBay who's doing handcrafts versus something mass produced, spirit infused versus deadened, no life force. We're moving into different times now. There is so much value in what you think, what you feel, and how you spend your time. You're not wasting time if you're not productive. And so what would it look like if you were considering time to just be in spaciousness, to be productive? Any blessings?